everyone. So here's the continuation of our discussion for the contents of chapter 3 for the methods. So we're down to the last four parts or topics that we have for chapter 3. That's source of data, data gathering procedures, then the ethical consideration, and lastly, the analysis of data. So we're going to start first to discuss the source of data, which will be on the next slide. Source of data, it refers to where researchers obtain the information they use to answer their research questions or test hypotheses. So meaning to say, when we talk about source of data, the question there is where, no? Asa ninyo kuhaon ang inyong information. So it talks about now, or it refers to the origins or locations from which researchers gather information for their study. No? So meaning, asa ba niyo kuhaon tong inyuhang mga gamiton, 'di ba? Na mga data, na mga information sa inyuhang study. So there are two broad categories of data. So first is we have primary data, and then the next one is secondary data. So when we talk about data, it refers to raw facts, figures, or observations that are collected during your research. So meaning they are typically, or let's say they are unorganized and they lack context or interpretation. No, so meaning raw pagid siya, 'di ba? For example, if you conducted a survey and you recorded your respondents' age, gender, and then the responses to the specific questions you have in your questionnaire, those recorded values would now be considered as data. So, but it will be now categorized as primary data or secondary data. Will be a primary data if it is the gathering of raw data collected at the primary source. So it is a process of collecting the original data collected by whom? By the researcher. So kamo yun ang nag-collect anang data, no? Kanang raw data ninyo for a specific research purpose. So sources where researchers collect the data firsthand. So meaning to say, matawag na to siya nga primary data if kamo gyud na personally ang nag-collect ana for that specific research purpose. So examples include surveys, interviews, experiments, observations, and focus group discussions. No, because let's see for example in surveys. So si kinsa man di ay ang mag-distribute, no? Si kinsa di ang mag-conduct sa survey, mag-distribute sa research questionnaire, or when pag mag-focus group discussions, kinsa di ang mag-facilitate and mag-collect ana na data during that collection of data. Of course, kamo. So that data na inyohang makuha, we call that primary data. It's like gathering information directly from the source, like conducting interviews with people or conducting experiments in a lab. While secondary data, it is the gathering of second-hand data collected by an individual or the researcher who is not the original user. Pasabot, dili kamo, no? Dili kamo ang first hand na nag-collect anang data. So it is a process of collecting data that is what already existing. So naa na siya, it's readily available sa inyo ha. Be it already published books, journals, and or online portals. Sources where researchers use existing data that someone else has already collected for a different purpose. So what are those examples? It includes books, journal articles, government reports, databases, and websites. So we consider these as secondary data. It's like using information that's already been published or recorded, similar to what? Reading books or articles written by other experts. So these are the two broad categories of data. So we have first the primary data, and the second one is the secondary data, in which in your thesis you should be able to uh, place there, no, ma-mention ninyo unsa ang inyong source of data. Asa ba mo nagkuha, no? Asa ba mo nag-obtain, nag-collect sa inyong data. The next will be the source of information. For the source of information, it is often categorized based on the originality of the material and the proximity of the source or origin. So meaning no, it talks about the originality, no? Or unsa ba ang kalayon or how far unsa ba kaduol siya. So it informs the reader as to whether the author is reporting information that is first hand or is conveying the experiences and opinions of others, which is considered second hand. So meaning when we talk about information, that is the result of organizing, analyzing, and interpreting the data to make it meaningful and useful. So meaning katong mga raw, di ba katong mga inyong na-collect, after you organize, analyze, and interpret that, then it will become now an information. So it so there are categories also of sources of information. If in the source of data, there is what we call two broad categories, which are the primary data and secondary data. Here in source of information, we also have those categories. First is the primary sources. Second is the secondary sources. Then the third one is what we call tertiary sources. Primary sources of information, those are the records of events or evidence as they are first described or actually happened without any interpretation or commentary. Information that is shown for the first time are original materials on which other research is based. It also involves the direct collection of original data specifically for the research study. So what are those examples? Mga theses, dissertations, scholarly journal articles, research-based siya, some government reports, symposia and conference, proceedings, original artwork, poems, photographs, speeches, letters, memos, personal narratives, diaries, interviews, autobiographies, and correspondence. So another example to it, if you're to relate that, diba, sa thesis natin, those surveys and questionnaires, diba, those data collected through structured questions administered to participants, those are what we also call as primary na mga sources. Next is the secondary sources. So these already involves using existing data that was collected for a different purpose or by someone else. So it already offer an analysis or restatement of primary resources or sources, often try to describe or explain that primary sources, and then it tend to be works which summarize, interpret, reorganize, or otherwise provide an added value to a primary source. No, so meaning there's already an analysis nga nahitabo, no? Gi-interpret na siya, gi-summarize na ang primary source. So what are those examples? We have textbooks, edited works, books, and articles that interpret or review research works, histories, biographies, literacy, criticism, and interpretation, reviews of law and legislation, political analysis, and commentary. So, for example, in mga books and texts, di ba? Those information extracted from existing books or published na mga materials. So they have already, siguro they reviewed other na mga existing books and published materials and they created, di ba? Nag-create sila og another na reference or mga books. Or even, let's say, kani mga government reports, di ba? Maybe they have already used tong mga statistical or research reports published by government na mga agencies. So that is all about sa secondary sources. The last one is the tertiary sources. So it involves summaries or interpretation. So combination na siya of the primary and secondary sources. So sources that index, abstract, organize, compile, or digest other sources. So those are, let's say, yung almanacs, fact books, Wikipedia, directories, guidebooks, manuals, handbooks, indexing, and abstracting sources. So for example, let's say mga encyclopedias, no? Those are what? They are general reference sources that provide overviews of topics in which gikan siya, no? Sa mga primary and secondary sources. Again, we have three categories for the source of information. We have primary source, secondary source, and the tertiary source. Now, let's move on to the next part sa chapter 3 for the methods, which is data gathering procedure. Here in data gathering procedure is ang boto ninyo in your thesis is that you're just going to simply describe how instrument will be administered. No? Unsaon ba ninyo pag-administer or paghatag no sa inyuhang instrument, let's say kanabang survey, no unsaon ba ninyo siya pag-deliver dito sa inyuhang place where you're going to conduct your research. The description of extensive steps taken to obtain access to people and sites, the set of steps or actions systematically followed to transform raw data into meaningful and usable information. Meaning, here in data gathering procedure, just like, di ba, how we define research, it's systematic. So, dapat systematic pod ang sa data gathering procedure. There are steps that you need to follow, no? Inyuhang i-outline diha unsaon ba ninyo pag-gather sa inyuhang data? Unsa ba inyong first thing na buhaton? So, dapat naka-outline na siya step by step when you present that in your thesis ang data gathering procedure. So these procedures are a crucial part of the data processing cycle and are designed to ensure accuracy, efficiency, and consistency in handling. So we already know what's inside that data gathering procedure. So you're going to provide there again in your thesis the procedures or the steps taken no inyong gipang buhat for you to be able to gather those data no na kailangan ninyo sa inyong research. But what exactly is data gathering ba or data collection? So it is a systematic method of collecting and measuring data gathered from different sources of information in order to provide answers to relevant questions or to provide answers sa inyong research objectives. It's an accurate evaluation of collected data, can help researchers predict future phenomenon and trends, and a crucial part aspect in any level of research work. So data, if inaccurately collected siya ninyo, it will surely impact the findings of the study, thereby leading to false or invaluable outcome. And that's the reason also why you need to provide no, your readers sa inyong thesis. Unsa itong procedures, unsa inyong steps, unsa inyong mga pamaagi, di ba? Na inyong gibuhat for you to be able to gather the data needed sa inyong study. So, for you to be able also to have an accurate pod, di ba, na collection sa inyong data. So, there are also different methods, survey methods and observation methods. For survey methods, we have here yung questionnaires, the common one if you're using if you're going to use yung quantitative data. There's also naman questionnaires in qualitative, but it's going to be a guide questionnaire. Then there's what we call interviews. For questionnaires, so it's more common again in quantitative research, may be distributed online, by phone, by mail, or in person. So the usual, kasi diba, it's no longer pandemic, face-to-face naman ta, even gani atong klase, right? So during pandemic, the questionnaires, they were distributed online, no? Or even ganing sa mga different social media platforms such as kanang sa Messenger, diba? Or now, at present, na nahuman naman ang pandemic, we're going to distribute our questionnaires in person unless or otherwise our participants or our kanang mga respondents or kanang part do kanang mo take or mag-participate sa toong research, they're not available in person. So, pwede po siya ihatag via online, phone, or email. So usually offer closed questions with limited options on questionnaires and consistent data can be collected from many people. Kasi nga, di ba, quantitative, you have not your sample size. So next is the interviews. So it's more common in qualitative than in quantitative ang interviews. So conducted by researcher in person, by telephone or online, and usually allow participants to answer in their own words. So meaning, unlike in questionnaire nga, it could either be na alang sila na sila pang checkan, no? Magputang na sila check mark dito But in an interview, you're just going to really allow your participants to answer the questions that you're going to throw to them using their own words siya. So ideas can be explored in depth with a smaller group. Example, if the interview will be conducted via focus group discussion or one-on-one interview. So these are some of the survey methods, questionnaires, and then interviews. Next is we have the observation method. So there are also two. So we have the quantitative observation and we have the qualitative observation. So quantitative observation, it's systematic counting or measuring, no? Then categories and criteria determined in advance because you're using quantitative data. So while in qualitative, your observation, it's more on taking detailed notes and writing rich descriptions, and all relevant observations can be recorded. So those are the two observation methods. It could either be quantitative observation or qualitative observation. Also, there are other methods of data collection. So we also have the media and communication, wherein you're going to collect a sample of text for your data on cultural norms and narratives like yung speeches, articles, or social media posts. Also, there's in psychology, you're going to use technologies like neuroimaging, eye tracking, or computer-based tasks to collect data on things like attention, emotional response, or reaction time. In education, so there's using tests or assignments to collect data on knowledge and skills, while in physical sciences, they're going to use scientific instruments to collect data on things like weight, blood pressure, or chemical composition. But when we are going to conduct criminological research, common to us is we're actually using yung questionnaires, the interviews, no, sometimes it's also common din yung what we have yung collecting a sample of text. It depends as to what are the data na you need in your study. We're done with discussing the data gathering procedure. We're going to discuss next is the ethical consideration, in which these are the principles and guidelines that you as researchers will have to follow to ensure that your studies are conducted with integrity, respect, and a commitment to the well-being of your participants or your respondents, meaning those who are involved in your study and the broader community. A set of principles that guide your research designs and practices. These principles will make sure that that participation of your respondents or participants in your studies, it should be voluntary, informed, and safe for research subjects. So it helps protect the rights, dignity, and safety of individuals involved in research and contribute to the credibility and trustworthiness of the research process. So here in ethical consideration, the top priority or focus is more on the research subjects, not the individuals involved in your research, your respondents, your participants. So there's a few of mga ethical considerations that we need to place, no, atong ibutang sa inyong research or sa inyong thesis, but it depends also kung unsa pod ba ang inyong studies all about. So we're going to discuss a few of the common na mga ethical considerations that we have. First ethical consideration that we have is yung voluntary participation. So meaning, it requires that people or those individuals na who will be involved in your study should not be coerced into participating in your research or sa thesis ninyo. So there should be willingness, di ba? Dapat voluntary ang pag-partake or pag-participate sa inyong mga research subjects. Your participants should be free to opt in or even opt out, no? of the study at any point in time. So they should be willing and voluntary ang ilahang pag-join, and they should also be given that option also nga if at any point in time no sa pag-conduct sa inyong research or thesis di na sila gusto mag-participate, then they have that option to opt out from your study. Next is the informed consent. So this requires that prospective research participants must be fully informed about the procedures and risks involved in research and must give their consent to participate. Meaning to say, dapat kabalo sila, no? Na akay nakpananghid ka ilaha. Then participants must know the purpose, benefits, risks, and funding behind the study before they agree or decline to join. So meaning to say, dapat aware sila kung unsa ang ilahang joinan na research study or ang inyong thesis before they will give their permission, their consent na mag-join sila sa inyong study or sa inyong research or thesis. All research subjects are free to choose to participate without any pressure or coercion. Same with sa voluntary participation, no? Mag-uban po ni sila that before they are going to voluntarily na mag-join sa inyong study or research, dapat informed po sila unsa di ilahang buhaton. Unsa ba ang purpose sa iyong study? Will there be any benefits or naapod ba siya yung risk, di ba? Or unsa ba ni funded ba niya ang inyong study by any other mga let's say government agencies or mga any other organizations? And of course, dapat there should be no pressure or coercion, but dapat siya sila compel no dito sa pugson. So this includes information about the study's benefits, risks, funding, and or the institutional na mga approval. So those are the information dapat ma-relay ninyo or ma-inform ninyo sa inyong mga participants or respondents before they will give their consent or permission that they wanted to voluntarily or willingly participate sa inyong study or research or sa thesis ninyo. The next ethical consideration that we have is that participants of the research study should not be put in a situation where they might be at risk of harm. So regardless no, or whether if it's physical or psychological, dapat they should be free no, from the risk of harm. So as a result of their participation. So meaning if they're going to give their consent, no, their permission to voluntarily or willingly participate in your study, dapat they should be free from the risk or any harm on their end. Physical, social, psychological, and all other types of harm are kept to an absolute minimum because there are research, I mean, no, na there's actually really mga siguro harm or risk sa end sa inyong participants, but it should be kept to an absolute minimum. O pwede gani nung kanang wala gid siya risk or harm sa ilahang end. So all potential participants receive and understand all the information they need to decide whether they want to participate. So that's the reason why in the informed consent earlier, dapat i-disclose na gito, ipang-relay na gito siya na information. If it involves risk or harm, unsa ba to siya? And you let them decide, no? You let them know of that information para kabalo sila na if they're going to participate in your study, then there's a risk or harm kung naaman galing, no? So, pero dapat ang ana is that if as much as possible, if you can do na there's going to be no risk or harm sa inyong end, sa ends inyong mga participants or respondents, then it would be better. Part of the ethical consideration is privacy. So it requires the protection of privacy of research participants, wherein there are two sub-principles under this ethical consideration. So we have confidentiality and then anonymity. For confidentiality, So the participants here of your research study or thesis should be assured that identifying information will not be made available to anyone who is not directly involved in the study. So meaning to say na anything no or any information that will identify your participants or inyuhang mga subjects sa inyong study dapat dili na siya ma-made available no maskin kinsa nga walay appeal sa inyong study. For example, let's say kung inyuhang mga sensitive ang inyuhang study and then your participants are for example mga bata no or let's say katong common example nako is that let's say rape victims. So there should be no identify katong maka-identify nga hala kani di ay si kani siya na individual nag-participate or rape victim man di ni siya din nag-participate siya ani nga study. So dapat no information should lead no those individuals yun nga nag-join sa inyong research na ma-identify sila sa uban nga walay appeal or not directly involved sa inyong study. So it should be kept confidential ang mga identifying information. So you know who the participants are, but you should keep that information hidden from everyone else. Which is why na even your panel members, your chairperson, your panel members, your sometimes your research advisor, they would not know actually no kung si kinsa gyud ang directly involved sa inyong study, kinsa ba ang nag-participate. Kaya they were not going to ask you of the names sa inyong mga participants. Even in the questionnaire, 'di ba, makita man dito ang the name there, it's optional man. Or even na katong mga mag-qualitative research, if you're going to transcribe no, ibutang na niyo dito akin sa ba ang respond ana kinsa ba ni nga answers inyong questions during your interview, then ibutang na ninyo siya dito as inyong thesis during sa results and discussion. You're not even going to place there ang ilahang names yun ilahang complete and real names. Nung pwede ta mo gamit og pseudonyms. Or you can actually use like respondent 1, respondent number 2, but not really their complete name no or their real name ang inyong ibutang for us to keep di ba those information that can or that will identify them na nagparticipate nila sa inyong study. So it kept confidential gid na siya. You anonymize personally identifiable data so that it can't be linked to other data by anyone else. You know who the participants are, but you remove all identifying information from your report. Next, we're going to discuss the anonymity. For anonymity, so it requires that participants will remain anonymous throughout the study, even to the researchers themselves. So you don't know the identities of the participants. Then again, personally identifiable data, meaning katong mga data or information again na who na or one way or another will let other individuals nga dili directly involved sa inyong study ma-identify nila ang mga participants ninyo dapat it should not be collected no and you don't know who the participants are and you can link any individual participant to their data. So you can only guarantee anonymity by not collecting any personally identifying information. And what are those? Ang mga personally identifying information. Example, ang names. Again, like I have said, na in your survey questionnaire, no, in your research questionnaire, research instrument, wala, ang name yun dito ang nakabutang is naka-close and open parenthesis siya with optional nga word. Diba? The phone numbers, we're not going to collect that. Even the email addresses, their IP addresses, their physical characteristics, and even the photos and videos. But for the photos, let's say for example, di ba naaman to siya murag part there sa inyong thesis nga for documentation. Paton gid sa photos is that you're going to blur their faces or tabunan ninyo siya ilahang faces so that dili pud sila directly ma-identify sa inyong mga readers sa inyong thesis once napa-hardbound na ninyo siya. Or even the videos, kailangan yun naka-blur ang ilahang mga faces if you're going to present, let's say, or inyo habang part ba asa ba niyo gamiton ang mga videos ninyo, no? So again, those are the two subcategories or under sa privacy. So we have confidentiality and then anonymity. Another is the no deception. So participants should not be deceived about the purpose or nature of the research unless justified by the study's prospective scientific, educational, or applied value, and that equally effective alternative procedures that do not use deception are not feasible. So meaning to say, no, murag ka ng, if it is can be justified yun, nga kailangan murag if you're not going to use deception, dili murag applicable, dili murag possible ang inyong study. But it's rare na case, no? Because majority or most of the studies dapat wala gid siya deception. No, you should really be open, no? You give the information to your participants kung unsa ba gyud ilahang apilan no unsay purpose, especially the purpose of the study, which is why during atong sa informed consent, when you're going to ask their permission, dapat naka-detailed na gyud dito no nga katutanan ilahang information yan dapat may balaan wala gyud nakatago so that we will avoid this deceiving your participants, and there will be of course again no deception. Have next is the knowledge of outcome. So, as your research participants, they have that right to receive an explanation of the results of the investigation. Explanation may be done orally, in writing, or by informing them of the issue of the journal in which the research report is published. So, there are instances in which in some mga organization or offices or kung asa gani mo nag-conduct sa inyong study, they would sometimes ask no kung naunsa na ba o say results sa inyong study, no? They would even actually ask a copy about your study. So for this one, they have that right, no, na makadawat sa inyong explanation to know what's the result di ay when you conducted that study sa ilahang location. 'Di ba? And you should not deprive them of that knowledge, of that explanation nga ay confidential man siya. Because what you're trying to provide them is the results, no, the findings of your study, not really those mga involved to no? Kasi it's going to be generalized man ang inyo hapong ihatag sa ilaha or katupong mga naa sa inyong chapter 4. Those are the information or explanation that you can give to them because they have that right to know nga mao di ay ni ang hitabo, no? Even that's also the reason why di ba na part dito sa inyong thesis or research that recommendation so that they will also be aware nga kani ang result and then kani di ay ang dapat na mga buhato nila no mga recommended na mga actions that they need to take. So for knowledge of outcome, you should be able to give them the explanation, especially if they're going to ask it. Is we have yung results communication. So as a researcher, you should ensure your work is free of plagiarism or research misconduct. And of course, you accurately represent your results because sometimes the problem in during the results and discussion, there are instances wherein some of the researchers misrepresent nila yung results nila. So that's the reason why, diba, we have yung characteristics ng research or your ability na dapat analytical, no, dapat critical when you are now going to interpret, you're going to present your results. That should be accurately presented to us sa results and discussion ninyo. So the way you communicate your research results can sometimes involve ethical issues because again, sometimes different ang result, different pod ang pagka relay or ang pagka-present sa findings. So it's very important na kailangan yun, i-double check yun ninyo ang inyong results, even how you interpreted it. No? Unsa yung pag-present, dapat kung unsa ang inyong pagka-present, dapat maupod na ang makita dito sa inyong results, sa inyong study. Good research communication is honest, reliable, and credible. So it's best to make your results as transparent as possible so that you will avoid itong mga ethical issues sa study ninyo. We have already talked about yung few of those common na mga ginabutang no sa ethical consideration. There's actually a lot pero it depends again as to unsa ang inyong research topic. Unsa ba ang inyong research studies all about. So now, let me just discuss quickly ang part of kanang sa ethical clearance ninyo. Though this will be discussed in detail pohon no during the webinar by our research ethics office. So there are three types of review for the ethical clearance. So the first one that we have here is yung exempted from review. So meaning your proposal or yung manuscript or your study are exempt from research ethics office review when there is no possibility of harm. Because in ethical consideration, what we're checking is yung mga possible no or the possibilities ba meron bang harm na will happen or will arise when you're going to conduct your study. And that's the reason why yung ethical clearance no, before you're going to gather data, dapat makasecure mo anak first before you will conduct your study. So, ethical, after your proposal, you revise your manuscript until such time, no, there will be an approval nga it's okay na siya, kato yung gi-propose ng study. And then after that, you're going to have yung questionnaires nyo validated by your validators, and then after that you're going to now submit no a request or endorsement letter no endorsed by your panel committee and then your advisor and thesis coordinator about sa ipa-undergo na ninyo ang inyong manuscript or proposals, 'di ba? Proposals na approve no yung chapter 1 to 3 yung study ninyo sa REO or Research Ethics Office natin. So before you can conduct your study. So going back to accepted from review, so it will be exempted from review by our REO yung manuscripts or proposals if there's no possibility of harm arising as a result of the conduct of the research project or when the information being collected is available from the public domain. Second type of review is the expedite review. So, ito usually kapag hindi kasi there are forms no mga REO forms that you're going to fill out para for preliminary review siya, no? So usually kapag sa preliminary review, okay na yung mga information no na nilagay nyo sa mga REO forms. So sometimes, I mean if it is really clear there na yung hinahanap or yung mga chinek, mga information na nasa REO forms kapag nagmamatch siya doon sa manuscript or sa proposals, usually if it's really very clear then na established na walang harm, yung ethical considerations, 'di ba? So usually hindi na siya umaabot ng expedite review unless or otherwise na kapag yung fill out nyo ng mga REO forms, marami kayong nilagay ay yung mga information, let's say, saan nyo collect ang data, ilan yung sample size nyo, ay yung data retention sa mga ethical consideration doon sa informed consent. If those mga information in the REO forms ay hindi siya makita doon din sa manuscript nyo, hindi siya the same yung information or unclear siya doon sa proposal or manuscript nyo, then there's a tendency also na magiging expedite review siya. Ayun. But for expedite review, this is a proposal circulated for expedited review when the research procedures present no more than minimal harm to the research participants or communities. So that's what's going to happen na ma-expedite review siya. Or kahit siguro alam nyo as researchers na wala talaga namang harm, but again, doon sa pag-fill out nyo sa REO forms, and then doon sa manuscript or sa proposal nyo, hindi siya aligned. No, kaya that's the reason why you need to make sure nga na-align talaga. Kung ano yung chinek nyo doon sa REO forms, dapat mag-reflect siya sa manuscript or proposal ninyo. Because if not, then there's a possibility na ma-expedite siya. Even though na wala naman siguro talagang, no, there's really no a possibility na may harm siya or risk sa end ng inyong participants when you're going to collect the data. Again, it's very important to align and to make sure na kung ano yung meron sa REO forms, dapat makikita din siya nung magre-review ng REO sa inyong manuscript or proposal. The last type of review is what we call full review. So meaning to say all of those proposals no that will present more than minimal risk. So sobra na siya sa minimum, 'di ba? Na risk to human subjects or to your participants or respondents are reviewed by review panel who present the proposal to the REO followed by a general discussion and a consensus decision. So meaning to say, 'di ba kasi there's a preliminary review. And then, let's say sa preliminary review, hindi masyado clear or hindi talaga na-establish na there's going to be minimal risk lang sa end ng inyong human subjects or your participants or respondents, hindi siya na-establish na minimal lang siya. It is more than that or beyond sa minimal risk siya. Kasi hindi nag-align yung sa may REO forms nyo and then hindi din siya reflected properly no doon sa manuscript nyo or sa proposal nyo. Then what's going to happen is yung nag-preliminary review na review panel, they're going to present your proposal sa Research Ethics Office na and they're going to have that general discussion or meeting wherein proponent or you, the researchers responsible for the proposal under review, are invited to respond to queries raised and to provide clarification and or justification. So meaning there's going to be a general discussion with the REO and then andun din yung review panel, then you will be invited mga researchers along with your sometimes with your research advisor, sasamahan kayo. And then there's instances wherein they would also invite yung consultant, parang outsider din, no? That they're going to consult about your study. So it's really very important na dapat naka-reflect or reflected siya na establish nyo talaga na there's going to be, if possible, minimal nyo lang yung risk. If you're going to conduct your study or you collect the data na ninyo, dapat minimal risk lang yung sa inyong mga respondents or participants. So those are the three types of ethical review. We have first, the exempted from review, second, expedite review, and the last one is the full review. So details about yung ano ba yung mga REO forms, we'll just discuss it further with our REO na representative kung sino yung a-attend sa ating webinar soon so that you can also raise your questions. So well, we are now down to the last part or topic that we have for chapter 3 and that is analysis of data. Analysis of data, that is the examination and interpretation of data to uncover patterns, trends, relationship, and insights in your study. So, yung data natin that we have gathered no sa ating mga participants or respondents, they may be analyzed quantitatively or qualitatively depending on the level of measurement and the number of dimensions and variables of the study. So you as researchers here in analysis of data, you're going to use various techniques and methods for you to be able to organize, summarize, and make sense of the data na na-collect ninyo. So, you might use yung mga statistical methods natin. So, dapat dyan, dito, in analysis of data, nakalagay siya. What are those statistical methods that you're going to use? The graphs, charts, or yung mga qualitative approaches. If you're going to do yung research design nyo is qualitative research design siya to explore the data and answer your research questions or yung research objectives ng study nyo. And also, you need to analyze in depth to give meaning to the data that you have collected. So there's a few of those mga tawag nito yung mga statistical methods that you can use in dito sa analysis of data or doon sa inyong research depending on the ano ba yung design? Is it quantitative ba or qualitative siya? So we're going to discuss a few of them. We have yung statistical analysis. So you're going to investigate trends, patterns, and relationships using quantitative data. So meaning to say dito is yung research design nyo dito is yung quantitative or yung research approach is quantitative. So to draw valid conclusions, Statistical analysis requires careful planning from the very start of the research process. Now, I'm going to introduce to you some of those yung parang statistical treatment ng data nyo na na-collect nyo sa inyong mga participants or respondents. There's a few yung mga basic lang since you will have your statistician that you can refer your questions or kung ano ba yung statistical methods na kailangan yung gamitin. So you can simply ask yung magiging mga statisticians ninyo that we have sa statistical analysis is yung mode, no? Or the modal value of a data set, which is the most frequently occurring value. So when we say mode, kung kunat yung mode, no, let's say if it's quantitative, yung pinaka-frequent, 'di ba, na nag-o-occur na value sa inyong results sa inyong sa data na na-collect nyo. So that is the most frequent value. It's a measure of central tendency. So when we say measures of central tendency, that is a measure or a way for you to find the middle, the average ng data set or yung data na meron kayo, which will tell you the most popular choice or most common characteristic of your sample. So yun yung tawag sa mode. Yung always or yung most frequently na nag-o-occur, no? Yung paulit-ulit siya na nag-o-occur doon sa inyong data set or the most popular choice or most common characteristic ng inyong sample. So for us to be able to find the mode, we have this formula. So if your data is numerical or quantitative siya, what you need to do is that you order the values from low to high. But if it is categorical, meaning we're not going to deal with numbers, no, you sort the values by group in any order, and then you simply need to identify the most frequently occurring value, katong ning balik, no? Balik siya na value in your data or sample. So I have an example here example for numerical mode. So as you can see, our data set. So let's say yung data set natin are the ages of six college students. So yung A to F, they will represent yung students natin. Then they have corresponding, nakalagay dyan yung corresponding na age nila. So meron siyang 19, 22, 20, 21, 23. So for us to be able to find the mode, yung gagawin lang natin is that since this is numerical, we're just going to arrange or order the values from low to high so we can easily see the value that occurs most frequently. No, frequent siya. Yan ibalik nag-occur. So, in our order data set, we're going to arrange it age from low to high. So, 19, 20, 21, 22, 22, and 23. So, now, we're going to look for that value nganing balik, 'di ba? That most nag-occur siya frequently. So in this example, you will see that the mode of this data set for the age, no, ng ages of six college students is 22 because that's the value that occurs most frequently. Other example, this is for categorical mode. So our data set contains the highest education levels of the participants' parents. So you will see yung letter A to F, it will represent yung participants natin. And then yung parents' education level, each of those participants, makikita nyo, they have their corresponding na mga education level. For us to find the categorical mode, here in our example, we're going to group the values by group. Unlike sa numerical na mode, na we're going to order the values from low to high, dito naman kapag categorical, we're not dealing with yung data natin we're not dealing with numbers. We're going to group it. No, yung values natin, i-group natin siya. So we create a simple frequency table as what you can see here in the presentation. We're going to place the categories natin or yung category natin, which is yung mga parents' education level on the left-hand side and the frequencies on the right-hand side. Meaning to say, pila ba kabuok ang kaning, for example, bachelor's degree, no? So we're going to place that here in a table. So left side, the parents' education level, and then the frequency. So we're going to tally there ang bachelor's degree, how many times or how frequent ba siya nag-occur. Same with master's degree. high school diploma, and doctoral degree. So from this table, from this simple frequency table, we can see that there are two modes. Diba? The most frequent na nag-occur na value natin sa ating dataset. This means we have a bimodal dataset because it has two modes. Pero if one lang siya, like yung example natin kanina sa numerical na mode, we call it unimodal. Kapag tatlo, if it is with three modes, we call it trimodal. But if it is with four or more modes that we can see in our dataset, we will now call it multimodal. But here in our example, since the most frequently occurring na value is duhaman, so we're going to call it a bimodal dataset, and the modes are yung bachelor's degree and ang master's degree. Well, under sa statistical analysis is what we have yung median. No, this is the middle number in an ordered data set. Kana naka-in order na mga data, no? Yung pinaka-middle number, that is what we call median. So the value in the exact middle of the data set when ordered from low to high. So the value that's exactly also in the middle of a data set when it is ordered. No? So it's a measure of central tendency that separates the lowest 50% from the highest 50% of values. So meaning katong tunga, no? Kung in order na to atong data, unsa tong tunga nga number naa sa tunga, that is what we call median. To find the median, first we order the data, yung data natin. Then we calculate the middle position based on n, the number of values in your data set. The formula that we have for median. So if n is an odd number, so the median lies at a position na ito. So close and open parenthesis n plus 1 divided by 2. But if n is an even number, so the median is the mean of the values at positions n divided 2 and close and open parenthesis n divided by 2 plus 1. So let's have an example here. Let's find first yung median with an odd numbered data set. So let's walk through the steps using a small sample data set with the weekly pay of 5 people. So ito yung data set natin, weekly pay that is in US dollars. So we have 350, 800, 220, 500, and 130. Step 1, first we order the values from low to high. So ito yon. So we'll start with 130, 220, 350, 500, and 800. Next is for step 2, we're going to calculate now the middle position. Take note, we are trying to find the median with an odd numbered data set. No? So we use this formula. So close and open parenthesis, n plus 1 divided by 2, where n is the number of values in your data set. So for us to calculate the middle position or the median, ito yung formula. N is the number of values in your data set. Pila man to kaganiha ang atuang values. So we have 5, diba? Naaman to kaniha in the previous slide. If you're going to take a look at it, no, naa siya'y 5 ka values or 5 ka weekly pay sa 5 ka tao. Ana. So now, n, we will replace n with number 5. So n plus 1, so 5 plus 1, so divided by 2. So 5 plus 1 equals 6, divided by 2 equals 3. Now, the median is the value at the third position. We're able to get already ang median, no? That is 3. Pero it does not mean tolo, no? Ang ikatulo or 3 siya, the number itself 3. But we're talking about 3 as yung third position dito as ato ang gi-order na dataset from low to high. Dili kay 3 siya ang answer, but the third position ikatulo dito as ato ang value. So to find the value in the middle position, since earlier we have arranged our weekly pay in US dollars according or from low to high. So unsa man ang ika-third na position diha ikatulo. So we have 130, 220, and 350. So now, yung ating median is the median weekly pay natin is yung 350 US dollars. So that's how you are going to find the median in an odd numbered data set. The next example we have is how to find the median with an even numbered data set. So meaning, di ba, earlier we have only 5 values in our data set. So if yung lima lang or odd yung number, no, yung total number ng values natin sa data set. So yun yung formula na gagamitin natin kanina. Yung close and open parenthesis, n plus 1 divided by 2. But now, if you're going to deal with an even number data set, meaning, di ba, di na siya 5. So we're going to add 1 para ma-even siya. So, pila naman ni? We have already 6 na values. So, even number na siya. So, in this example, there isn't a single value in the middle of the data set. So, we have to follow a slightly different procedure for an even number data set. So, same gihapon na data, but we're going to add another na value to the data set para mahimo siyang even numbered na data set. So as what you can see, we have added 1,150. So same pa rin na step 1, we are going to order the values from low to high. After ordering yung ating data set or yung values natin, I mean, from low to high, we're going to calculate now the two middle positions. Kukunin muna natin yan siya. So, ano ba yung nasa middle position? So, we use the formula n divided by 2 and n divided by 2 plus 1, wherein n is the number of values in our data set. So the formula, as you can see here, for us to get the middle position, so n divided by 2, we replace n with the number of the values in our data set, which is unom man to sila kabuok. So we place there 6. 6 divided by 2 is equal to 3. So our first middle position now is yung nasa third position. Another is we calculate the second na middle position kasi we're trying to calculate ano ba yung dalawang middle position. So, n divided by 2 plus 1. So, again, we replace n as the number or with the number of the number of values in our data set. So, n is equal to 6. So, 6 divided by 2 plus 1, that is 4. Meaning, our second middle positions, or I mean position, is yung nasa fourth position. So, the middle values that we have and our even number data set is yung nasa third and fourth positions. Now we have step 3. So, di ba, calculate na natin yung two middle positions which are yung third and fourth position. So, we take a look at dito sa ating ordered data set. So, ano ba yung nasa yung third and fourth position dito. So, yun yung magiging middle values natin, which is yung 350 at saka yung 500. They are our middle values. Next is, we're going to find the mean of the two middle values so that we can get the median. So, to find the median, we calculate the mean by adding together the middle values and dividing them by 2. So, 350 plus 500 divided by 2. And that is equal to 421. So now we have the median weekly pay for this data set is 425 US dollars. So this is how we calculate yung median natin for an even numbered data set. Final part sa ating statistical analysis is yung mean. So this is also known as the arithmetic mean, but it's different from the geometric mean kasi when we say geometric mean, that's the average or an average that multiplies all values and finds a root of the number. Unlike here in mean, that is the sum of all values divided by the total number of values, meaning i-add na to tanan ang values that we have in our data set, ihapon na to pila ba to kabuok, and that's going to be our denominator. So it's the most commonly used measure of central tendency and is often referred to as the average. I guess, no, kabalo man ta siguro, or we have heard already about, you get the average. So meaning, i-add na to tanan, i-divide na to, after adding everything, nananata ato ang total, we add it, ang denominator nato will be the number of katong gipang-add nato na values or numbers. You can find the mean or average of a dataset in two simple steps. First, find the sum of the values by adding them all up. Second is you divide the sum by the number of values in that dataset. So you have an example here. Before we proceed with our example dito sa mean, let's take note na meron tayong yung population mean if we're dealing with population natin sa study, then or yung we're trying to get the mean ng population natin. Pag sample mean naman, if we're trying to get, of course, the mean of our sample. Now, you take note yung formula presented earlier between yung sa population mean and then sa sample mean kasi it's quite different. So now, this example, let's say you want to find the average amount people spend on a restaurant meal in your neighborhood. So you ask a sample of 8 neighbors how much they spent the last time they went out for dinner and find the mean cost. Kunin yung mean. So now, ito yung data set natin. Ito yung amount nila or cost of dinner for two in US dollars. We have 42, 13, 31, 87, 24, 58, 76, and 69. So step 1, we find the sum of the values by adding them all up. Since we're working with a sample man siya, not the total population man sa neighborhood, you just get a sample, no, which is yung sample size lang is 8 lang siya, not the totality or the entirety of yung nandoon sa neighborhood mo. Diba? So, the formula that we will be using will be yung sa sample mean. So, because we're working with a sample, we use the formula below. Ito yung nakikita nyo. So, our next step will be we divide the sum by the number of values. So, in this formula, n is the number of values in your data set. Again, when we see number of values, pila ba ang values nga naa sa ato ang data set? Diba? 8 kabuok. 8 man. So our data set has 8 values. So the formula, as you can see, if we're going to calculate it, so we just replace n sa 8. So the sum of the values, no? So 400, di ba, gi-add man nato siya ganiha in step 1. We add all of those 8 values and the total of it is 400. So the sum of x or the sum of the values is equal to 400. So for us to be able to get the mean, as you can see in this formula, 400 divided by n. Unsa man ang n? That's the number of the values, 8. So we get 400 divided by 8 is equal to 50. So the mean tells us that in our sample, our participants spent an average of $50 on their restaurant bill. So muna siya ilahang average nga nagasto sa ilahang restaurant bill. That's how you are going to calculate your mean sample mean. Ayan siya. But if it's going to be population mean, then you're also going to follow the same formula yung presented kanina doon sa population mean. Now let's move to the range. No, still part gapon siya sa statistical analysis po nato. It's the highest value minus the lowest value of the data set. So that's how we're going to get our range. Dali ra. The spread of your data from the lowest to the highest value in the distribution. It is a commonly used measure of variability. So when we say variability, it will describe no unsa kalayon, how far apart data points lie from each other and from the center of a distribution. So take note that for sa range, no negative number for range because the range formula will just simply subtract the lowest number from the highest number. Then the range is always either 0 or a positive number. So we have an example here, this one. So if we are to calculate the formula, if we are going to calculate the range, so the formula is R is equal to H minus L. So range is equal to the highest number or highest value, then minus the lowest value is lowest number. So the range is the easiest measure of variability to calculate. So to find the range, we need to follow the following steps. Number 1, we just simply order all values in our data set from low to high. And then, we're going to subtract the lowest value, katong kinagamyan nga value in our data set from the highest value. So highest value minus lowest value. So this process is the same regardless of whether your values are positive or negative or whole numbers or fractions. That's going to be the same process that we're going to follow for us to be able to get the range. Say now in our data set is the ages of 8 participants. So you can see no naman dira ang mga participant 1 to 8 and then their corresponding na age. So first, again, sa tuy buhaton, we need to order the values from low to high to identify unsa ato ang lowest value which will represent L in our formula. And what is the highest value which will represent H in our formula. So there, we'll see na if you're to arrange that in the order of low to high, we have 19, 21, 26, 29, 31, 33, 36, and 37. Then, what we're going to do next, we're going to subtract the lowest from the highest value. So, R is equal to H minus L. So, R is equal to, unsa man ang pinaka-highest value, 37 in our data set, minus, what's the lowest value? That's 19. So 37 minus 19 is equal to 18. Now, the range of our data set is 18 years. So that's how we calculate now ang pagkuha nato sa tuang range. Another part gyapon siya sa statistical analysis is yung standard deviation. So the average distance between each value in our data set and the mean. So the average amount of variability in our data set. So it tells us on average how far each value lies from the mean. So a high standard deviation in our study, it means that values are generally far from the mean or the average sa atoang values. While a low standard deviation, it will indicate that values are clustered close to the mean or dito sa average sa atoang values. So standard deviation is expressed in the same units as the original values. Kung meters siya sa original values, meters po na siya ang sa standard deviation and the like. No? Maski unsa pa. I say if it's, for example, kung different unit of measurement, kung unsa ang original na unit of measurement sa original values, then that will also be the same na unit or same unit of measurement ang nakabutang dito sa iyahang standard deviation. Here's the formula sa standard deviation. So we have there yung when we're going to collect yung data from every member of the population that you are interested in, then we can get an exact value for population standard deviation. So yun yung first na formula natin dyan, no, for the population standard deviation. So that's how the formula looks like, yung first na formula na andito, yung sa taas. Then yung nasa baba, if we're going to collect data from a sample, no, the sample standard deviation is used to make estimates or inferences about the population standard deviation. So the sample standard deviation formula will look like kaning naa diri sa baba nato na formula. And you take note about the explanation anang mga symbol nga naa sa tuang formula. So let's have an example. So there are 6 main steps for finding the standard deviation by hand. When you say by hand, kanang gamit mong kamot, no? Kasi there are already kanang if we're to get the standard deviation, usually they are already calculated automatically by whichever software we use for our statistical analysis. Kasi example, SPSS, that's already a tool which will help researchers or even kanaganin sa mga statisticians. They have already the tool for them to calculate automatically unsa ang standard deviation sa inyong data. What they will need is just yung tally, yung data lang po ninyo. But we can also calculate it by hand, kinamoto na to, for us to better understand how the formula works. No? So, let's take this, for example, we'll use first, unahon na to small data set of 6 scores to walk through the steps. So, mauna ang atuang dataset. So, we have 46, 69, 32, 60, 52, 41. So, the first step will be, we find the mean. Ang average anang naa sa tuang dataset. So, to find the mean, add up all the scores, then divide them by the number of scores. No? So, there. So, kita niyo sa formula, i-add ra. And we divide, pila ba kabuok ang scores nato dire, the number of our values. So, we have, di ba, 6, 46, 69, 32, 60, 52, and 41. So, after adding it up, i-divide na to, kay uno man sila, divide na to by 6, and we get 50. After step 1, we proceed then to step 2. So we find each score's deviation from the mean. So sa may buhaton, we subtract the mean from each score to get the deviations from the mean. Since ang equal sa ato ang x bar is 50, so here we take away 50 from each score. So sa mga mga scores nato na nga naa sa dataset, 46. For 46 minus 50, that's negative 4. 69 minus 50, that's 19. 32 minus 50, that's negative 18. 60 minus 50 equals to 10. 52 minus 50, that's 2. And 41 minus 50 equals to 9. After doing that, we'll proceed now to step 3. We square each deviation from the mean. Meaning, kwaon na to ang iyahang, 'di ba? Ang squared niya, no? Meaning i-multiply na to each division from the mean by itself. So this will result in positive numbers. So let's say we get the square division from the means. So di ba ganihan negative 4. So I guess we all know the basic kanang principles, or let's say ang rule, when we're going to multiply negative negative, it will give us positive. Ano? So there, so negative 4 times negative 4, the square of negative 4, that's basically 4 times 4 equals 16, and then so on and so forth. So where we are now, or we were able to get the square deviations from the mean. We proceed to step 4, which is to find the sum of squares. No? Meaning ganiha, na squared naman nato to ato ang division, kadto na pong division, katong sum of, katong mga na-squared na nato, we're going to add them all, no? The add up all the square divisions. So this is called the sum of squares. So i-add na to, itong 4 times 4, 16 man to siya. No? So 16 plus 361 plus 324 plus 100 plus 4 plus 81, that's a total of 886. Then we find now the variance. Saon-saon man pagkuha sa variance, we divide the sum of the squares by n minus 1. For a sample, small letter n siya. Pag n naman, for a population, so this is the variance. Ingana siya pagkuha. So since we're working with a sample size of 6, wala man ta nag-deal. Our example is dili man all about sa pagkuha sa population na standard deviation. It's sample standard deviation man. So we will use n minus 1, where n is equal to unsa man 6, kay unom man ang ato ang values dira, di ba? So 886, that's the sum of squares divided by 6 minus 1. So 6 minus 1 is equal to 5. So now 886 divided by 5 is equal to 177.2. For the last step, we are going to find the square root of the variance, no? So to find the standard deviation, we take the square root of the variance. So square root of 177.2 is equal to 13.31. So we're just going to get two decimal places. So ang pasabot ana is that ang pagkuha sa square root is, di ba, kung ang answer nato dapat ka ng 13.31, if we are going to multiply it sa iyahang sarili to itself, the equal or ang answer ana should be 177.2. But since we can use calculator to get the square root of 177.2, the result of that uh will be, so if we're going to have the squares of 177.2, so ang equal is 13.311649, then taas siya. Now we will just get yung kanyang two decimal places for this example. So from learning that SD is equal to 13.31, we can see that each score deviates from the mean or the overall nato nga average ato sa tuang values by 13.31 points on average. Next we have is the variance. So it is calculated by taking the average of squared deviations from the mean. So this variance will tell us the degree of spread in our data set. So the more spread the data, the larger the variance is in relation to the mean. So this variance, it is expressed in much larger units. Example, naka-meter squared siya. Unlike in standard deviation, nga ang unit niya is same unit siya as the original values na naata sa tuang dataset. So we have the formula for variance. Here's the formula that we have. Similar lang gihapon siya no nga naa siya population variance and sample variance. So if we collect data from every member of the population that we are interested in, so for us to be able to get that exact value for population variance, we use that first formula, makita niyo diri so population variance. But if we're going to collect data from the sample or from a sample, then we're going to make use of this sample variance na formula. So we have an example here, this one. So there are 5 main steps for finding the variance by hand. So of course, similar siya sa standard deviation that there are already or they are usually calculated na automatically by software no for us to use it sa ato ang statistical na analysis. But again, we can also use man gihapon or we can calculate it using or by hand for us to better understand unsaon ba siya pag calculate ang ato ang variance. So there are 5 main steps for finding the variance by hand. We'll use a small data set of 6 scores to walk through the steps. So sample lang gihapon siya. So we have 46, 69, 32, 60, 52, 41. First is we find the mean. So meaning i-add na to and divided it by the total number of the scores or values that we have in our data set. So we have 50. Diri no? Gi-add siya, gi-divide sa 6 because we have 6 values here and the mean here is 50. Two is we're going to find each score's deviations from the mean. So if you can see, it is actually almost similar to standard deviation. But later, sa next few steps, you will see the difference on saan pagkuha sa standard deviation, ang difference sa standard deviation, kaganiha, o sa variance. So step 2, we find each score's deviation from the mean. So unsaon man siya, diba? Nakuha naman nato kaganiha ang mean. So, ang x bar is equal to 50. We just simply take away 50 from each score that we have in our data set. Next, for step 3 is we square each deviation from the mean. So, similar siya, di ba, sa standard deviation. So, we just simply multiply each deviation from the mean by itself. So, this will result now in positive numbers. Kasi, di ba, earlier, when we subtract the mean dito as ato ang mga values, there are those nga naka-negative siya. So, we get the square of it, and then, of course, like I have said kaganiha pod, na pag negative to negative equals to positive man na siya. So here are the square deviations from the mean. Now is we're going to find the sum of squares. So we're just simply going to add those square deviations nato kaganiha or katong ang sum of squares nato kuhaon nato siya. So the total is 886. Still similar gap ang step 4 and even step 5 sa pagkuha sa standard deviation. So step 5, we divide the sum of squares by n minus 1 or capital katong n siya if that is population. But we'll use katong small n minus 1 because we're dealing with sample na variance. So since we're working with the sample, we'll use n minus 1 wherein n is equal to 6 kay 6 man ang ato ang value sa ato ang data set. So 886 divided by 6 minus 1. So 886, the sum of squares, minus 5 which is, of course, diba, the number of values minus 1, 5, equals to 177.2, in which 177.2 is now what we call our variance. So unlike in standard deviation nga we get the square root, 'di ba? Diri we're just going to simply end na lang diri sa pagkuha sa sum of squares minus 1 niya for us to be able to get the variance. Kaya kung i-square root nato ng variance, then it will become now yung standard deviation. So that's it. Now, for this slide, I am going to introduce to you some of those mga different pa na mga statistical treatment of data or statistical analysis that we can use or we normally use in our study. But I am not going to discuss the formula noon saan siya pagkuha. Anyway, you can refer it naman or you have your statistician naman to do the calculation for it. No, so I was just going to introduce to you those common gihapon na mga parts sa statistical na treatment of data or sa pag-analyze nato sa sa atoang data statistically. So we have person correlation coefficient R. This is the most common way of measuring a linear correlation. It is a number between -1 and 1 that measures the strength and direction of the relationship between two variables. So it involves two variables, no? So you should, or we are going to use the person correlation coefficient when, number one, the relationship is linear. Pasabot that the relationship between our two variables can be described reasonably well by a straight line. So we can use a scatter plot to check whether the relationship between two variables is linear. But then again, for the calculation man po ani no, your statistician or even the computation or calculation, your statistician will know man, no, if you need to use person correlation coefficient ba or you need to use different na statistical analysis or statistical methods sa inyong research. Next is number two, both variables are quantitative, meaning your independent imuhang duha ka variables dapat quantitative siya. Dili pwede na the other variable is qualitative. So you will need to use a different method if either of the variables is qualitative siya. So dapat both of them should be quantitative ang imuhang variables. The variables next are normally distributed, meaning you can create a histogram of each variable to verify whether the distributions are approximately normal. So it's not a problem if the variables are a little non-normal, but what's important is that the variable should be normally distributed. Lastly, is that no outliers. When we see outliers, those observations that don't follow the same patterns as the rest of the data that you have. So a scatter plot is one way to check for outliers. Look for points that are far away from the others. So ayun siya. But again, as I have said, I'm just going to introduce this to you, mga other different na mga statistical methods that usually ginagamit po nila. And also, you can refer it to your statistician nga if this statistical na treatment of data or statistical method, okay lang ba siya gamiton sa inyong study. The next thing we have here is yung sa simple linear regression. So it is used to estimate the relationship between two quantitative variables. So you can simply, you can use simple linear regression when you want to know, number one, how strong the relationship is between two variables. Example, the relationship between rainfall and soil erosion. Or number two, the value of the dependent variable at a certain value of the independent variable. So meaning the amount of soil erosion at a certain level of rainfall. So that is when you're going to use simple linear regression. However, sa mas ganiha, you can always refer this kaning sa statistical analysis na sa inyuhang statistician, no? So that you will be better guided yun as to unsa ba na statistical analysis ang better or method na inyuhang gamiton para sa inyong study. Next is we have multiple linear regression. It is used to estimate the relationship between two or more independent variables, then we have one independent variable. So you take note no of the number sa mga variables, if it's quantitative ba, two ba na quantitative, or let's say two ang independent, isa lang ba ang dependent? Ayun. So here in multiple linear regression, if it is again, we're checking no ang estimate sa relationship. If two or more ang independent variables, then we have one dependent na variable. We can use multiple linear regression when we want to know, number one, how strong the relationship is between the two or more independent variables and that one dependent variable. Example, katong how rainfall, temperature, and amount of fertilizer added affect crop growth. So we have three dira no? Tulo ka independent, then isa lang ato ang dependent variable, ang crop growth. So the value of the dependent variable at a certain value of the independent variables. So meaning, ang ato expected na yield of a crop at a certain levels ato ang independent na variables which are rainfall, temperature, and fertilizer addition. Another statistical method or kanang ginagamit nato sa statistical analysis is ang ANOVA or analysis of variance. It is a statistical test for estimating how a quantitative dependent variable changes according to the levels of one or more categorical independent variables. So our focus here now is on the quantitative na dependent variable. It tests whether there is a difference in means of the groups at each level of the independent variable. So, muna siya to ang gamiton. Another is the chi-square test. So it's person's chi-square test, still a statistical test for categorical data. If you're not dealing with numbers, pareho good kaganiha ato example nato, let's say sa parents education level, so katong bachelor's degree, master's degree, so or high school diploma, those are what we call categorical data. But when we talk about numerical data, those are katong age, 'di ba, sa tong participants 19, 22, 30. So those are what we call numerical data. So this chi-square test is used to determine whether your data are significantly different from what you expected. So those are the common na mga statistical tests that we have or that we will use sa ato ang statistical analysis. But again, you can just simply ask or refer kung sa inyong analysis of data, if you're going to have quantitative, I mean, a research or quantitative design, you can just ask no help from your statistician for you to be again guided. So now we're going to move on to another na analysis na we can use in our analysis of data. So aside from the statistical analysis, we also have different analysis na we can have sa ato ang analysis of data. Depende sa research approach or design that you have sa inyong study. So we have yung content analysis. So it's a research method used to identify patterns in recorded communication. Meaning, unsa man na sila, no? Na-record na siya. Dili na siya kanang meaning kamo ang nagkuha gyud kamo ang first na nag-collect ana nga data. So to conduct content analysis, you systematically collect data from a set of text which can be written, oral, or visual. So asa man mo, meaning you're going to analyze, di ba? Let's say, gikan sa books, newspapers, magazines, speeches and interviews, web content, and social media posts, photographs, and films. So, muna siya inyuhang source kung asa mo magkuha sa inyong data for you to do the content analysis. So, ang atong content analysis, it can be both quantitative. So, meaning you're focused on counting and measuring. So, still related to numbers siya. And qualitative, if your focus in doing the content analysis is on interpreting and understanding the content of those katong naa dito sa libro, di ba, katong sa interview. In both types, kaning sa quantitative and qualitative, you can categorize or code words, themes and concepts within the themes, and then you analyze the results. So muna siya ang sa content analysis. Other is we have yung critical discourse analysis or what they also call na discourse analysis. So it is a research method for studying written or spoken language in relation to its social context. So, unsa ba ang aim niya? To understand how language is used in real life situation. Ang ato ang ginagamit na language, no? Giunsa ba siya paggamit sa real life na setting? So, a common qualitative research method in many humanities and social science disciplines, including linguistics, sociology, anthropology, psychology, and cultural studies, since the focus here is katong mga written or spoken na language. Unsa ba nato siya paggamit in our society, in our real life na situation? We are going to conduct yung discourse analysis. What will be our focus? Number one is the purposes and effects of different types of languages or language, the cultural rules and conventions in their communication, how values, beliefs, and assumptions are communicated, how language use relates how language use relates to its social, political, and historical context. And then it also means ang kaning critical discourse analysis, examining how language functions and how meaning is created in different social contexts. So it can be applied to any instance of written or oral language as well as nonverbal aspects of communication such as a tone and gestures. But the focus here is more on that content dito sa ato ang language, whether it's written or oral. No? So that's how we do the discourse analysis. Now, what are those materials ba? 'Di ba? Suitable for discourse analysis. So we have still katong books, newspapers, and periodicals. But if unsa man ato ang tan-awon aning sa books, the language no gigamit dira marketing materials such as brochures and advertisements, business and government documents, websites, forums, social media posts and comments, interviews and conversations. By analyzing these types of discourse, researchers aim to gain an understanding of social groups and how they communicate. It's more on the dialogue, the conversation, the communication, and the language used in the society or in that social groups. Then we also have yung thematic analysis. This is a method of analyzing qualitative data, which is one of the common din na ginagamit na analysis of data natin if we're going to use na research approach is yung qualitative or qualitative research design siya. So it usually applied to a set of texts such as doon sa interview or transcripts. So ito yung common, yung thematic analysis. So the researcher closely examines the data to identify common themes based doon sa answers ng kanilang participants sa research study nila or doon sa interview, no? So topics, ideas, and patterns of meaning that come up repeatedly, yun yung gagawa ng common na theme. There are various approaches to conducting thematic analysis, but the most common form follows a six-step process, yung familiarization, coding, generating themes, reviewing themes, defining and naming themes, and then you're going to write up doon sa pagdating nyo na sa inyong results and discussions. So, this thematic analysis, this is a good approach to research where you're trying to find out something about yung people's views, opinions, knowledge, experiences, or values from a set of qualitative data. Kaya nga, ito yung isa sa common or usual na ginagamit din nila kapag ang students, they're going to conduct qualitative research. So, ito yung isa sa mga common na analysis, na ginagamit nila sa analysis of data nila. For example, interview transcripts, social media profiles, or mga survey responses. Some types of research questions you might use thematic analysis to answer. Let's say, how do patients perceive doctors in a hospital setting? If it talks about yung perception. What are young women's experiences on dating sites? So meaning the experiences of your participants. What are non-experts' ideas and opinions about climate change? So if you're going to ask yung mga ideas and opinions of your participants, then you can use thematic analysis. And how is gender constructed in high school history teaching? If it talks about yung pag-construct, 'di ba? So, these four, eto siya yung common. These are some of those types sa mga research questions ninyo wherein you can use thematic analysis. Lastly, we have yung textual analysis, a broad term for various research methods used to describe, interpret, and understand text. All kinds of information can be gleaned from a text, so from its literal meaning to the subtext, symbolism, assumptions, and values it reveals. So, atong textual analysis in the social sciences, it sometimes takes a more quantitative approach where the features of text are measured numerically. So, for example, a researcher might investigate how often certain words are repeated in social media posts. So, meaning it involves you measuring no katong words nga nagbalik-balik ikapila ba siya ni balik sa mga social media posts, or which colors appear more prominently in advertisements for products targeted at different demographics or different na mga lahi-lahi nato na demographics, no? So, in textual analysis, it's more of a quantitative na approach because you're going to measure the text when you are going to analyze your data. So those are some of those mga ginagamit nato, 'di ba, in our analysis of data, whether if our research approach or research design is quantitative siya or qualitative. Pag quantitative, so we have those mga statistical na mga analysis, and for quantitative, we have yung mga content analysis or discourse analysis, we have textual na analysis. So, or even the thematic analysis. So, that's the end of our discussion for analysis of data. But if you're going to take a look at sa part sa kanang mga thesis gani na hardbound na siya, very short lang man pod ang nakabutang diraan na part. It will not abot siya og two or more pages. Usually, maximum of one page or two pages. Kung siguro statistical siya, medyo taas-taas inyo ha, kaya you're going to enumerate there or list all of those statistical methods na inyong gamiton sa inyong statistical analysis. But again, that's the end of our discussion for analysis of data. So that's the end of our discussion for the remaining topics or parts na we have in our chapter 3 for the methods or research methods. So we just discussed yung source of data, data gathering procedures, then the ethical consideration, and lastly yung analysis of data. So that's all about chapter 3, and thank you so much everyone.